What's up guys? Welcome to a video. I'm Lori. So I haven't posted much on this new travel channel. This is my second channel, but I do want to get more into it because I have so much experience now. I've done a lot of traveling in the past like 10 years, I guess I would say. So today's video, I want to explain, or I want to give you some tips how to afford to travel. So traveling has gotten just so expensive over the years, but there are tips and tricks you can do so that you can still afford to travel. So step number one, I would say, is get credit cards with points. I can't stress that enough because I only started a year ago, literally a year ago, and I got my first free flight to Morocco like last month actually. So the thing is with these points, so you know, obviously I've used credit cards like a long time. I didn't have any points attached to it. I got air miles, but like those are just cheap little points, and what do you use air miles for, right? So the two cards I have is, first I would get yourself an Amex card. This is the Cobalt Amex. I mean, any Amex card with points would be great if you're in Canada. So what it is because you get points, you get crazy points for Amex, first of all. So there's like, you might get 5 times the points with a lot of the takeout and fast foods, restaurants, anything like that, grocery stores, you get like 5 times the amount of points. So then you can transfer it to Aeroplan, and it's like point for point. So it is seriously the best points. But anyways, not everyone takes an Amex. So your next card I would recommend is an Aeroplan Visa card. So that way, if you go to, you always try your Amex first because they give you the most points. If they don't take Amex, then you have a Visa as a backup. The only difference is Costco. If you do shop at Costco, they don't take Visa or Amex. So you have to pay MasterCard or debit. So if you have another card, maybe a MasterCard, that'll give you points, maybe Air Miles or something. But every dollar you spend, you should try to get points to it. And the other trick is, so gas, I think you get, I don't know if it's 3 or 5 times the points for every dollar you spend on gas for some places, but let's say for example, Esso. If you go to Esso and you pay with your Amex, you get Amex points, which you can transfer to Aeroplan. But you can also pull out your Optimum card, so then you get Optimum points. So guys, you're getting double the points, 2 different types of point systems that you're growing. And obviously they can be used for anything. The Optimum, I'm not sure about travel, but Amex, you can do anything. Amex points, you can use it for Marriott hotels, you can use it for Aeroplan. And Aeroplan is basically Air Canada, but the thing is, you know, you think, okay, well, I don't only want to fly somewhere that Air Canada goes. So I went to Morocco. Air Canada doesn't fly to Morocco, as far as I know anyways. When I was looking for the flight, there was no Air Canada direct to Morocco. Oh, actually, wait, maybe there was some. I didn't get a direct flight though, but I got a direct flight from Montreal, but it was a different carrier. So they partner with other carriers that you can use the points for. As long as you book it through Air Canada, they have like partners around the world that you can use your points for. Guys, I had a first class ticket to Morocco from Toronto. I bought the flight last year and I only got this card in February. Anyways, that's crazy. You get so many points, but I did do a lot of traveling. But I am married, so I started buying our joint things for the house on my credit card, so I would get points. So our groceries and anything I could pay, you know, I pay my Starlinks, which is the internet. I pay hydro on this. I could pay my cell phone on this. Like, it's, you know, you can seriously use so many things to pay on Amex. So that's tip number one, is get a couple credit cards that have points. Get rid of your other cards. The thing is with the Amex, there is a yearly fee. The first year is waived. So it is worth it for me because I already got a free flight, first class flight, like it was crazy anyways. I definitely recommend start with this, okay? So tip number 2, I would say, is set up an automatic savings trip account. So I have all my money, like, you know, my pay stubs and everything would go into one bank, but I have another bank, which is like an online bank only. There's no physical brick and mortar store. And on payday, I would set up to have a certain amount of money go into this trip account. And with this account too, it's not even one account. With that bank, the online bank, I had like 10 different accounts. I can open and close accounts when I want, right? So, okay, so when I was planning a trip to Morocco, I opened up a Morocco account, and every pay I could put money towards Morocco. But you know what? I also wanted to go to Bali, and I also want to go to Japan, and there's other trips I want to do, but they're staggered, obviously, not all in the same month. So I would just divvy out like a little bit of money, and you know what? It doesn't matter how much you can afford. Whatever little money, eventually you'll get to your goal if you set up the automatic savings account. So the trick is, it's not in your account. It's in a separate account, and it did take, for me, the account I used, it took me 2 days to get my money if I wanted it. which is fine. That way it doesn't, I'm not going to use anything frivolously, spontaneous, anything like that, right? I saved the money. That was for the trip. That's what it's for. That's what I used it for. So all during COVID, I kept saving money into my trip accounts, and I couldn't travel for 2 years, right? So then all of a sudden come 2022 and 2023, I did a whole bunch of traveling because I'm like, I've been saving up all this money for 2 years. I'm going traveling. Now it's open. I'm like, boom, I'm gone. So that's tip number 2. Do that right away and just save whatever little amount you can do, right? But something is better than nothing. Tip number 3 is kind of plain. You just got to work the plan. You know, you can't expect to afford travel, like decide today, okay, I want to travel next week and come up with the money if you don't have your finances in order and you haven't already allotted for that, you haven't already planned for that trip or had money or like a savings, a bucket money, anything like that, right? You're not just going to have the money for the trip. So unfortunately, tip number 3 is just work the plan. You know, you make the plan, you work the plan will work, right? So you just got to keep doing what you're doing, keep working, putting money in all these accounts, right? That's kind of boring. But tip number 4, okay, so tip number 4 would be to travel on shoulder months. And what that is whatever the non-busy time for that country that you're visiting. You know, in most places it might be spring and fall, but there might be some places, maybe Australia, where their winters and their summers is different than ours in Canada or the States, right? So you have to look at basically the least busy time. So if you do want to save some money, obviously, but not everyone wants to go, you know, if you're going to a hiking trip in Peru, you might not want to go during rainy season because you're doing a hiking trip, right? So it depends really what kind of trip you're doing. But that's one tip I would say is when you choose the least busy time, it's going to be cheaper. Matter of fact, you know? Okay, tip number 5 is be loyal when you're booking things. So if you book, let's say, you know, even when you're doing road trips, even if you're not planning to do an out-of-country trip this year, you might go, you know, maybe you want to go to Ottawa for a weekend, Toronto for a weekend, Montreal, wherever you want to go in the States, New York City, whatever. If you stick with the same chain of hotels, you're going to rack up points. So for example, IHG, or is it, IHG is the Hilton and, you know, that group. And then there's the Marriott. So basically pick which hotel chain that you like and see if there's a point system, you know, and if there is, then just be loyal, just keep going there because really, when you look, or even Expedia, that's the other thing. If you don't want to be loyal to the actual hotel, you can be loyal to the booking site that you use. So I used to use Expedia, which I still kind of do, but anyways, before I was not really loyal for the hotel, just because I was booking kind of all over the world. So I just kind of went through Expedia. But then we went to a trip, a weekend to Montreal last weekend. I booked something and I'm like, why is it free? Like it's just showing free. And it's because I had so many points that I got a free weekend. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even, like, I saw the number at the top that I had some credit, but I didn't really think about it. So you still get credit, I mean, for Expedia, I don't know about other ones, booking.com and things like that. But just maybe look into like, you know what, maybe just be loyal to certain hotels or booking sites. Tip number 6 is focus on travel funds if that's what your goal is traveling. You're watching this video, I'm thinking you're probably wanting to travel. So, you know, if you really have that, it's kind of like the law of attraction, but it's also just being focused. It's being hyper-focused. You know, if you have a goal, everything else is not going, if it's not going to help your goal, it's going to stray you away from your goal, then you're not going to do it. So if you have this idea like, okay, I want to go to Japan, which is my next, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's what my plan in the next couple of years anyways. If you have that trip, you know, and when you want to go out in the morning, you want to have your coffee, you're like, you know, I could probably save a couple bucks if I made my coffee at home. Or, you know, I used to wear name brands, not me, but other people, you know, maybe they had name brands or whatever, and they don't want to, you know, it's like, do they really want to spend the extra money for the name brand, whatever it is, like whether it's food, clothing, bags, whatever, right? Or even just going out, you know, how many times a year or month do you go out to eat? You know, could you shave back one of those times to going out to eat to putting it towards your trip account? You know, it's really up to you, but I'm just giving you tips because it did help me when I was young, when I was younger, but when I was a single mom, my kid was young, and he never had name brand clothes. You know, everyone else in his school, or he would always tell me, oh, I want name brand. I'm like, okay, but I took you to Jamaica. I'm taking you on a cruise. I'm taking you all these cool places, right? But I know he looks back now, he's older now, and he does think like I did the right decision. He's like, thank you so much. It's so amazing. You know, I've traveled so much, and like, you know, when he was so young. So me personally, I'm glad I did that, because had I given him the name brand clothes or the latest iPhone, which he did have some technology later in life, but when he was really young, you know, there was things that I felt like I was not part, like everyone else was kind of doing these things for their kids, the name brand stuff. And I'm like, no, I was buying secondhand because he's a boy. He went through it, and you know what? He turned out great, and he got all these experiences. So he thinks he's better for it. I think he's better for it, and I would do it again the same way. So it's up to you really what your goal is in life. But if your goal is to travel, you really might need to look at all your other things in life and how you can, you know, shave or slightly change, maybe, or reduce, whatever the word you want to use. Just change it slightly so that you get to your goal. It is possible. You just have to, you know, you have the same bucket of money, unless you make more money, and that's even better, because then you have more money to spend on all your buckets. But if you have the same amount of money, it's how do you want to split the pie? You know, do you want to have a bigger piece of pie for the restaurant, or do you want to have a bigger piece of pie for travel? Like, it's your call, right? So the last tip for now is going to be book in advance. So I am the queen of booking. Don't laugh, you're probably going to, but I'm the queen of booking a year in advance. And I have been known to book a trip a year and a half in advance, but that was a certain circumstance because there was a hurricane that went through some of the countries in the Caribbean and really destroyed a lot of them. So one of the cruise ships, which was a great idea, they wanted to pump and help, you know, build up tourism for those countries. So they reduced the price, but you had to book it a year in advance. And it was so crazy. It was like, I want to say it was maybe $1,200 for a balcony room for each of us, or for maybe it was both of us. I can't remember, but yeah, maybe it was cheaper than that. I don't know. It was like 10 years ago or 5 years ago. I can't remember. So many trips ago. But anyways, we had to book it. It was like, and even my travel agent, I had a travel agent at the time. That was when I was doing cruises. I didn't really know how to book it myself online. Since then, I've done it myself online. But back then, I used to go to the travel agency in the mall. And so she even went, and she brought like 10 of her friends and her family. And so it was such a smoking deal. But anyway, so there's times like that where, you know, you might come across a deal. That's the other benefit of it. Ties in with tip number 2, is to have all these automatic savings accounts. Because if you come across a great deal and you have the money sitting there, boom, you got it. You're doing it. You book it, you know? But if you don't have the money sitting there and you're like, oh man, if I had just like thought about this a year ago. But the thing is, things are always going to come up. There's always going to be deals, always going to be trips, you know? So you have to know if you're going to be ready for them or not. But the thing is, if a friend comes to me and says, hey, do you want to go here? And I'm like, okay, sure. So I have all the money ready. So it's like, you know, you have to just seize those opportunities. So I don't know, it's just a great idea to have that thinking in the future, that there's going to be a deal, or someone's going to ask you to do something, or there's like a last minute booking trip that you hear about or whatever, and you just want to jump on board. You got to be ready, right? Also, get your passport ready. Make sure that your passport is not expiring 6 months before any trip. So just be on top of that, which isn't really part of that video. I'm just thinking about being prepared and stuff. So that's it. Those are my tips for now on how to travel. I do feel like it's one of those things. So I just came back from, I had, I don't know, I want to say 5 or 6 trips last year maybe, and I just came back from Morocco like a month ago. So I had 2 of my friends on Facebook being like, you know, messaging me saying, you have to tell me how you travel. Like, how do you afford to travel? Like, you're just going on trips nonstop. So I wanted to kind of put some tips and tricks in there. Obviously, everyone's circumstances is different. Not everyone's going to be able to travel the same way as other people, and everyone doesn't want to travel the same way as everyone else either. You know, so that's the thing, is you just have to do whatever's best for you. But these are just some tips that work for me, and then you can decide if it's going to fit into your life, or if you have your own tricks and tips. Please let me know in the comments below, because I'm definitely open to more of that. Please consider subscribing, because it does help my channel. Thanks for watching, and please leave a like. Bye.